Well, joining us on the show now to pay more tribute to the late Pope Francis is Nyani Tutu-Burris, granddaughter of Archbishop Desmond Tutu and CEO of Kijani Ajabu. Thank you so much, Nyani, for your time this afternoon. I mean, I don't know how much of those visuals you were able to watch this morning. Very somber, yet at the same time, celebratory in the sense that people, just happy to be there and converge to say their final goodbyes. Give us your reflections about Pope Francis. I mean, a man who some have said essentially redefined what it means to be a pope in the 21st century. As someone who has spent time in the Vatican yourself, just give us your reflections.
Thank you. Good afternoon, and thank you for having me today. I do agree that it was Pope Francis's light and what it is that he meant to so many people is showing, and it's very telling how he was able to unify the world on so many different levels, not just from a Christian standpoint, but I think his impact on the world in general. And specifically in the global climate conversation, not only as a spiritual leader, but as a fierce advocate for our planet. He framed environmental stewardship as a moral imperative, reminding us in Laudato Si that we must care for our common home. By calling fossil fuel executives to the Vatican and declaring a global climate emergency, and with the convening of the Economics for the Common Good conference, he challenged both leaders and communities to embrace a just transition, one that protects our vulnerable neighbors and aligns our economies with social justice and planetary health. His legacy of compassion and accountability inspires us all to see how deeply interconnectedness binds humanity and nature. And I think truly that he is an example of Ubuntu, and of looking not just at, when it looks at Ubuntu, not just for our connectedness and humanity, but really how it is that we are in this environment and how it is that we protect the world that we live in.
Yeah.
And I think that there weren't a lot of popes who focused on that.
Yeah, and I mean, just talk to us a little bit about the time that you spent, in the Vatican. You've just hinted a little bit about the Laudato Si and, of course, Africa's Green Wall project. I mean, he was unwavering in his stance about climate change.
Yeah, so the Laudato Si challenge follows after his Laudato Si, which was the encyclical for answering the cries of the earth and of the poor. And it was a convergence of the public sector, the faith sector, and the private sector coming together to actually address climate change and environmental change and social change. And in 2022, September 2022, I was granted the opportunity to present my company, Kijani Ajabu, at the Vatican. And while His Holiness was not present at the convergence, it was still an opportunity to see how the church is taking the environment so seriously and how it's been highlighted there.
And I mean, just continuing then on some of the things that he was so fiercely, what he believed in so fiercely. He spoke about a number of issues, as we've been talking now, climate change, but also inequality, poverty, geopolitical issues. I mean, the time that we are living to now, he is also the Pope that took us through COVID-19. While he maintained, the Vatican's position on other things, including, homosexuality, where he maintained the Vatican's position that it is sinful. He stressed, though, that the LGBTQI plus community should not be marginalized from the church, saying one of those lines now that has been quoted several times, "Who am I to judge?" Do you think, Nyani, that he succeeded in almost bridging the gap between the progressiveness and the conservative views within the church?
I don't know if he completely bridged the gap, but I don't know if that was necessarily his job. I think the fact that he opened up space for conversation, and especially in a system and in a church system where open dialogue is not something that we expect, just by virtue of him being willing to open up that dialogue, by him being willing to hold both pieces of truth and commit to fostering that change. And I think that he laid out a very good foundation for a position for us to be able to bridge that gap. And I think that now it is really in the hands of the next pope to see if that change will continue and to see if the bridge is actually built.
All right. Thank you, Nyani, so much for your reflections and, of course, you coming on to speak to us. Of course, Nyani Tutu-Burris, there is a granddaughter of Archbishop Desmond Tutu.